as of this week, we have some of the most up-to-date information regarding used vehicles and wholesale prices. And so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down where the used car market is trending. We're going to be talking about some of the cars that have lost the most value, while which ones have lost the least. And I'm also going to be taking you guys through some real-life examples of vehicle listings showing the current state of the car market from a used car seller's perspective. And I'm going to forewarn you guys right now, we have some good news because the car market is finally trending in the right direction. According to the Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index, wholesale used vehicle prices decreased by 2.3% in October. The Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index dropped to 209.4, which is actually down 4% from a year ago. This is excellent news because while many experts did predict that the car market would go down in the month of October, the fact that there is the UAW strike which is going on does add some questions into the equation, and it makes the car market much less predictable. So the fact that despite the UAW strike, we still saw car prices go down, that is excellent news. According to Manheim, the 3-year-old index, which is cars that are 3 years old, they declined by 3.6% from September to October. Not only is this a large decrease in the context of the current car market, but it's also a large decrease in the context of the car market pre-pandemic. Because while we saw a 3.6% decline this year, the average decline between 2014 to 2019 in the month of October was only 2.4%. So the 3-year-old index declined 1.2% more than what it typically does in past years before the pandemic occurred, which is really good news. Daily MMR retention was at 98.6%. And remember, MMR retention is the metric that gives us an idea of how much cars are selling for versus how much the MMR values of those cars are. An MMR retention of 100% means that a car is selling for its true value. Above 100% means it's selling above market value, and below 100% means it's selling for a discount. So at an MMR retention of 98.6%, it means that in the month of October, cars were selling for below their MMR values, which again is really good news. The average daily sales conversion rate dropped to 52.9%, which tells us that demand for cars is declining. And while this is an indication that demand is lower, it doesn't necessarily indicate that demand is crashing, because typically in the month of October, demand is a bit lower because of the fact that we're heading towards Q4 and people typically buy a car at the end of the year because of all of the incentives. So yes, demand is lower, but in many regards, it's just seasonality and really isn't an indicator to market conditions as a whole, at least not yet. If we take a look at vehicle segments, you can see that compact cars have declined by 10.1% over the last year, mid-size cars by 7.1%, luxury cars by 6.3%, vans by 5.2%, and SUVs by 3.7%, while pickups have just barely declined by 0.5%. But historically, while many different types of vehicles have been declining in value, pickups have actually been going up in value. So the fact that they have declined by even 0.5% over the last year is a positive thing. But let's use that as an opportunity to segue over to Car Guru's Used Vehicle Value Index, and let's take a look at not only the different types of vehicles and how they're declining or increasing in value, but let's also take a look at different makes and models and see how those are faring as well. So right here, we're over at Car Guru's Used Vehicle Value Index. We're looking at price trends. And you can see here that I've updated the chart to reflect roughly the last year, starting on October 1st, 2022 and ending on October 31st, 2023. And you can see here that we really are beginning to see some pretty significant price declines that really began at the beginning of summer, like beginning of June. This is after we saw price increases for the first half of 2023, then it seems to have peaked at the beginning of June, and we've been seeing really steady price declines ever since. But let's scroll down to the different body styles and let's see how these vehicles are doing. You can actually see in the last 30 days and in the last 90 days, coupes and convertibles have both increased in value. And while we aren't seeing huge declines with the different types of body styles in the last 30 days, we are seeing consistent declines. And this is true with not only the last 30 days, but also the last 90 and even year over year, with the biggest declines coming from the van in both the 30-day, 90-day, and year-over-year data. And the smallest declines not coming from the pickup truck, which is something that we've seen over the course of the last year, but instead coming from the coupe, which has increased by just over 1% in the last 30 days, just over 1.2% in the last 90 days, and has barely decreased any over the last year. And even though coupes and convertibles have increased in value over the last 30 and 90 days, it's not something that we should be overly concerned about because the year-over-year data is still showing that all of the different types of body styles are trending in the negative, which again is good news. But let's take a look at the different makes and let's see how these individual vehicles are doing. You can see here that BMW has actually appreciated in value by 0.11%. But if we scroll down, you can see that BMW is really the exception, as is Mercury, Pontiac, and that's it. We aren't even seeing appreciation amongst the ultra-luxury or exotic car markets, which is something that we've been seeing for the better part of 2 years now. I did talk about this in a recent video talking about how electric vehicles are depreciating at a disproportionate rate right now, but if we look at the chart from Car Gurus, you can see that this actually is really the case. Most vehicle makes are only depreciating between 0.5% and 1.5% over the last 30 days. And when it comes to year-over-year data, most vehicle makes are depreciating anywhere between 5 to maybe 15% on the high end. But you can see that in the case of Tesla, which has depreciated by 32%, and Polestar, which has depreciated by 34%, you can see that these cars have a disproportionate depreciation. The Wagoneer, Scion, Land Rover, and Jaguar are pretty bad as well. It seems as though whenever it comes to vehicle depreciation by make and model, you can kind of fit all of the different types of cars into one of a few different buckets. The EV segment, which is seeing depreciation of over 30% year over year. The luxury or new vehicle segment, I would put Land Rover, the Wagoneer, Jaguar into this category. And these cars are depreciating anywhere between 10 to 20%. And then you have basically every other type of normal, everyday economical car that is depreciating anywhere between 10% or less, with most vehicle makes and models seeing a depreciation rate of anywhere between 4 and 10%. Of course, there are a few exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, most of makes and models can fall into one of those 3 categories. The point though here, and I've been talking about this a lot on my channel over the last couple of years, is that we aren't seeing dramatic swings in either direction in the car market. We're not seeing multi-point increases month over month, but we're also not seeing multi-point decreases amongst different makes and models month over month either. We are just seeing consistent small declines month over month, and that is exactly what we want, because consistent declines compound on one another over and over again to create a really large impact over a period of extended time. But like I've said many times before on this channel, there really isn't a better way to gauge car market demand than looking at people who are actually trying to sell a car. Because you can tell me all day how much a car is worth, but unless somebody's willing to buy that price, then it doesn't really mean anything. So here we are over at Cars.com, and you can see here that I filtered out the searches to be a 2020 year model or newer. This is sort of to reflect the 3-year-old index that we talked about earlier. I also set it as $35,000 for the max price with 60,000 miles or less to reflect the standard used vehicle that people like to buy. And whenever you scroll through, you can see that the price drops come almost immediately. For example, this Alfa Romeo, which is listed for $27,998, it has 35,000 miles and it's advertised to have a $1,000 price drop. But if we scroll down, you can actually see that there's been over $2,000 in price drops, $2,352 to be exact. This car has been listed for 50 days, and the price drops would definitely indicate that the sellers are having trouble selling this vehicle. This 2022 Volvo S60 is listed for $29,950. It has just over 25,000 miles, and it shows that it has a price drop of $2,550. But if we scroll down to pricing history, you can see that this car has been listed for 68 days and has actually seen $4,396 in price reductions, with consistent price reductions coming roughly once per week. Now, in addition to looking at kind of the average used car on the used car market to see how they're trending on Cars.com, I also like to look at cars that were once considered hot new cars that were being sold for well above MSRP. So with that, let's take a look at some of these examples because I think that some of the price reductions will shock you. We all remember the period of time where the Ford Bronco was a hot new car and people were paying well above sticker to get their hands on these cars new. But today, there are plenty of these cars selling with price drops. For example, this 2022 Ford Bronco Badlands Edition, which is listed for $52,000. It has just under 7,000 miles, so pretty new. And if we scroll down to price history, you can see that this car has been listed for 77 days and has $7,000 in price reductions, seeing pretty consistent weekly price declines since it was listed back in August. And you can see that the price declines have gotten more aggressive as we head closer to the end of the year. Here's another Badlands Edition. This one's a really nice yellow color, which is listed for $55,000. And once again, you can see some pretty significant price declines. It's been reduced in price by $6,143 over the course of the last 56 days, which is how long it's been listed on Cars.com. And believe it or not, even the coveted C8 Corvette has seen some price drops. For example, this 2021 Chevy Stingray, which has just under 10,000 miles, it's listed for just under $80,000 and it's advertised to have a $500 price drop. But when you scroll down, you'll actually be revealed that this car has seen almost $4,000 in price drops and it's been sitting on the market for 80 days. A different, more extreme example is this 2020 model, which is listed for $74,201 with less than 5,000 miles on it, and this car has seen $9,699 in total price reductions, and it's been listed for 48 days. Now, what all of this data tells us is one thing: the car market is falling and car prices are going down. I don't care what dealerships or car salesmen tell you. I don't care what the prices of cars are on Cars.com or on Facebook Marketplace. The facts are that car prices are going down and demand surrounding the car market is also going down. And all in all, this is excellent news. And truthfully, from here, I think in regards to car prices at least, we're really only going to be going up. The UAW strike no longer seems like it's going to be a long-term threat anymore because automakers are currently working through deals as we speak. The holidays are coming around, which is a notoriously good time to get good deals on cars. Despite the fact that there are typically higher demand during this period of time, I don't expect that the high demand will cause car prices to go up. I think that this will be a good time to get some good discounts given the fact that it's the holidays and end of year, end of quarter. But I also think that an important part of the equation is the US debt situation. I actually have a more in-depth video planned for this on Friday, so if you're interested in this topic, be sure to stay tuned. But the point is, the situation regarding car loans and consumer debt, it really doesn't look good. And while this is really bad news for banks or for people who hold this debt, it's really good news for people who want to buy a used car at a reasonable price. So car prices are going down, demand for cars are going down, and dealerships are no doubt having trouble moving some of the inventory on their lots, which is why we've seen so many price declines across the board. Now, as far as whether or not right now is the right time to buy a car, to be honest, it depends on your personal situation, and I know that I say this every single time I make this video. Car prices aside, interest rates still suck. And in this most recent Fed meeting, they didn't lower interest rates. And it doesn't look like they're going to next month either. And so in a best case scenario, interest rates may stay the same, but that really isn't good news for somebody who wants to finance a car because it does mean that you're going to be paying anywhere between 8 to 20% on that car loan depending on your credit score. Now, depending on how quickly you want to pay off that loan, it may not be that big of a deal. And depending on the use of the vehicle, you may be able to write off the interest. For example, I'm planning on financing a car for my Turo fleet by the end of the year for tax reasons, and I don't really care about the interest rate because I'm not planning on holding the loan for more than a year, and I'm able to write off the interest that I do pay. But of course, this is heavily personalized and it is going to depend on your personal situation. So is right now the best time to buy a car? Probably not. But is it the worst time? Absolutely not. Truthfully, if I was looking to buy a car, I would probably wait until the end of November, if not the end of December. That way you can at least get some end of month or end of quarter deals. And if you're really able to wait 3 to 6 months, then that probably is the best thing to do, though I know that that isn't realistic for everyone. But like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.